Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to do a one tank at a time. You guys voted. Discus wins. Don't worry if you want the Trout Goodyear tank. That's coming up. Don't worry. But today we're going to do the Discus tank. I've got the tripod set up because I got to do it way up top here. And so let's get started with, here's how it looks right now. Plain tank. Got a little bit of stuff on the inside. You know, we can definitely clean this thing up and make it rock and roll for some Discus. So I'm gonna get the camera set up and we'll get to work. So first we're gonna start out with getting the air flowing, getting the tank opened up, getting ready to go. I'm already on my tippy toes. This is gonna be a humdinger. What? There we go. We turn the air on more. Great, now let's get some substrate. So let's talk about what we're going to do in this tank today. We're going to get the Discus in there, we're going to plant it. I'm going to use Amazon swords, and so I'm going to create a nutrient-rich substrate between fluorite, and then I've got, I want to say, some Eco-Complete and maybe something else. We want to get that in there and going, and get the water all murky, and then I can start planting. So let's see if rinsing it in the bag the way they recommend works or not. I feel like that worked reasonably well. I mean, not perfect, but pretty good, honestly. A little more left in there. Oh, what is this? Like a piece of wood or something. Anyway, now to the next bag. All right, now I gotta stand on my tippy toes. Hopefully that hit my head. There we go. And so why I'm using fluorite here is I want the kind of the benefit of the extra iron, the cation factor, and you know, I just want to give the roots something good to feed on. We're gonna use Eco-Complete as well, and some other things, but you know, I usually find when you mix some very similar substrates together, you get the best of all the worlds. Alright, now to grab the Eco-Complete. So here's a bag of Eco-Complete. I gotta get it open and get this in there. So keys come in handy for. Now I gotta spread some stuff around here. Now you want about 1.5 to 3 inches, somewhere in that range for gravel depth, so you can actually plant the plants and they'll stay in it. That's about, I mean, I'm a little heavy up front here. I gotta keep moving some substrate around. Usually you'd rather have it thick to the back and thinner in the front, just for, it's going to give you a depth that's going to look like the tank goes on further front to back. I'm still way heavy up here. My substrate's a little thick, but that'll have to do. Now I want to get an elbow in there so that the water level can rise all the way up. There we go, got the elbow. That'll rise it up a little bit. I might have to build another extension, but we'll see after that. Now I need to get a heater in here. So I've got a 250 watt heater here for this 40 liter. It's up high in my fish room, so it's going to already be naturally hotter than most tanks. But I want to make sure it's 84 degrees. That's where I like to run my Discus. And we're just gonna snug that up a bit. We're going to get this positioned on the back wall, and then we'll be sure to put a plant in front so we don't have to look at it. Get my heater plugged in here. Alright, so the planting needs to stay very simple and minimal because I want the display to focus on the Discus and I want to be able to, let's say, breed them and things like that. So I'm using 2 Amazon swords and a flame sword. Now, the swords themselves get huge, like 3 feet big, so they're going to fill this tank in, no doubt about it. But I figure I can teach you quite a bit about sword plants. So the first thing is, don't keep them with bristlenose. Bristlenose eat swords. So that's, if you've had problems in the past, it's one of the main ones you're going to have. When you get them, most of the leaves will be immerse grown, so that means they were grown out of the water. These are going to melt back, and new leaves are going to come out of the center that look skinnier. Now, most of this plant is already grown underwater, so hopefully we won't see much dieback. But if I was to send the plant out to you, order it from me, don't be worried if you're going to melt leaves back and grow new ones. Just have a good, rich substrate or lots of root tabs and things like that. So we're going to remove the rock wool and the pot itself. There we are. You're going to be left with lots of roots. Now, I don't have my planting tweezers handy, but Amazon swords are pretty easy to plant. And so we're going to do that. I'm going to put one of these, I'm probably going to put one in the corner, one in the center, and one off to the side. And, you know, usually you'd be like, well, put the red flame sword in the center. It'll look weird. So I'm going to do a grouping of the Amazons and then the flame sword off to the side. But we're just going to run it right down in the corner here. And we're going to kind of space it out so that it's got room to grow in every direction. A lot of times people want to push it in the corner. It's going to be suffocated in that corner. So if you get it, you know, kind of more towards the 1/3 point back, it's going to have a lot of room to grow and should be able to get light underneath the Finnick Stingray here. Now, I'm taking a chance, as I always do. I'm running Finnick Stingray, which is a low light fixture for LED, and I'm going to run a red flame sword, which typically wants higher light to be higher, to be red. So you can see on this plant right here, it's actually, this leaf is dying. It's consuming it to make new leaves out of the center. And so that's what this leaf is. It's turning brown, totally normal. You should always expect to have that with your sword plants unless you're getting it from someone that already has grown it underwater for you. But from the store and online and things like that, typically it's always going to have been grown immersed first. So we've got this one prepped down to bare roots again, just like that. We're going to stick this one in front of the sponge filter. Now when you're planting a plant, it's best to have the crown, and that's where the leaves come out and the roots. You want the crown above the gravel. So if you plant it too deep, it's all going to die off. But if you have a little bit of the roots showing, it'll live. So I always like to have a little bit of the roots showing. Alright, something like that makes it easy. And now we got to do the red flame sword. I'm going to do that on the right hand corner. And it's not hiding anything, and so if it doesn't work out, okay, I'll put something else there, and it's not, you know, not a problem. But, you know, the reds and the mottled leaves really come across cool in a tank, so we're going to try it. This one's more well established for my store. It's been there a little longer. And so you can see it's got quite the root ball here. And we're just going to put that down in the gravel. I'm going to fluff it up a little bit because it was kind of root bound. So that way it's a little easier. And some of these roots are a little mushy because it's been in a pot. But you pull the loose debris off. And then we're going to plant that over kind of on the right-handish side. Give it a little tug upwards. All right, so that is the planting of it. Super easy, super basic, but so are Amazon swords, and Discus themselves want higher temperatures and things like that, so we can't get too crazy with what we're doing. This is more of a functional tank than it is masterpiece display tank. Now I've got to clean this up and get some water going through here, and then I can move the Discus over and we can do a little bit more talking. Well, we've changed out some of the water, let it clear up a little bit. Now it's time to move the fish. I'll go ahead and do that now. The last thing I'm going to do is set up an auto feeder. This is only going to feed once a day, but I want the Discus to be able to feed on dry foods because that's one of the biggest problems when it comes to Discus. So when you go on vacation or something like that, maybe you don't want someone feeding frozen. So I'm using the Sarah Discus granules. I've already been feeding to them, they like it, they sink. I've used my pellet food and stuff like that, but I want to get that set up. Then I'll take you a little tour of this. I gotta get a new elbow that goes a little taller, so the water level goes up a little bit, but so far I'm loving it. So we have 8 discus in here. They're stressed out, obviously, they just moved. The water itself is still cloudy from the substrate and all that, but that'll clear up over the next day. And you guys get to see how this tank unfolds. We've got the Amazon sword here, and then if I get down off the ladder here and move the ladder, we've got another one in the center here, and we've got the red flame sword on the right hand side. And when these start growing in, they're going to fill in most of this tank. But right now we're waiting for water clarity. We've got the temperature already at 84 degrees, and we're just waiting to feed and grow them until I can pair them off and then maybe spawn them. So yeah, that's what I got done, one tank at a time, discus tank, simple build and yet effective. We've got nutrient-rich substrate, we've got easy plants, we're going to change a bunch of water, so we want to use the gravel to feed them instead of my liquid fertilizer because I'm going to change so much water in here, and it's mostly a holding tank while they grow. And so, yeah, that's how I set up a discus tank, quick and easy, not a show tank, but waiting for pairs to breed off, or to pair off. So I thought instead of showing you guys feeding the fish room at the end of the day, I would show you me making brine shrimp, because I want to make baby brine shrimp and get that on track for when we spawn the angels, when we start spawning discus down the road, and in general my fish love it, and I've just been lazy and completely fallen off the wagon. And I know once I start hatching brine, it's a lot easier to harvest it and refeed it than it is to just not do it at all. So that's what I'm going to do. Alright, and just like that, we've got brine shrimp eggs tumbling and ready to hatch for tomorrow. We'll feed that out tomorrow. I got to leave the light on so that way it helps them hatch and things like that. But now I'm actually going to feed the fish room, and that's all I've got for today. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the one tank at a time little mini daily vlog series here. And you know, we'll definitely chime back in on that when it clears back up and all those kinds of things. So we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.